Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very, very pleased to be part of the Variety Sports Network. And, of course, the show originates from the Frank Walker Law Studio. Thanks so much to Variety and to Frank for helping us out here, sponsoring us, all that good stuff. And obviously to DEK Roofing, longtime podcast sponsor, and hopefully they're doing okay. I think they actually got into the 40s the other night down there in South Florida, and that's like panic down there. So hopefully everybody's good there. But hopefully everybody is good in the Steeler Nation. Ben is supposed to be here. I'm not sure where he is. We have not heard from him. I really don't know. He's just taking his time apparently. But I did want to get started tonight with a very simple toast to the very great, the very late, unfortunately, Myron Cope, the father of the terrible towel. Join me in a salute. Salute. Drink. Delicious.
I like the step-by-step instructions for the people who aren't watching us live.
That's just it. You know, you got to lay out. Plus, just doing what I do for a living, directions are pretty much a part of my entire life on how to do things. So, it just naturally came to me. Steelers are just about 2 weeks now since their season came to an end. There are 4 teams currently left. We're going to get all of that in. We'll talk Tomlin tonight, maybe a little quarterbacks as well. Are we doing this again with this group? A lot of stuff to talk about. But because Ryan Scarpino did not have power last week, he was all prepped. He was ready to go. This guy was going to come breathing fire last week, and then the power went out on him. Thankfully it came back on. He was good to go. Family's all good. And I know you've been chomping at the bit to kind of recap the season, Scarp. So please go right ahead. The stage is yours.
This would have been more passionate last week. I've cooled off.
I know.
I just and I posted it. I posted it on the old app formerly known as Twitter, but I just I'm tired, man. Like I'm tired of the hollow words. I'm tired of the lack of postseason wins. I'm tired of Russ's yay, everything's great attitude. I'm tired of a defense that's the highest paid in the league but folds like a lawn chair every time when it matters. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of a team that refuses to adapt to the modern NFL. I'm not upset. Some jag off on Twitter was like, if you're that upset about it, find the new hobby. I'm not upset. I'm tired. I'm tired of investing my time into the team. And the thing is, yeah, of course I'm going to watch next year. I'm not just going to sit here and say I'm not going to watch. So it's just, it's like Groundhog Day. Bill Murray was happy for the first couple of days, and then he's finally like, "This is fucking terrible." But we've been watching Groundhog Day for 7 seasons, right? Or 8 seasons now.
Yeah.
That's fucking even 8 seasons.
I've written about that it feels like Groundhog's Day.
And anyway. That's my thing. To answer Aaron's question, the couch is in the couch is in the garbage. Our oldest, our dog that died, she died on the couch, and it was like the dog's couch, like that's where they slept. So there's too many memories there, and gonna turn this into a playroom for our kids. So.
Well, just leave yourself a nice little corner there.
Oh, I did. I got my chair. I got my television. We're good to go.
Outstanding. It's one of the many things that happen as a parent, which Ian, obviously you can understand this. You give up more and more space, and that's just part of the deal. But very sorry about the DOG, man. Very, very sorry about that.
Thank you.
Been through it many times. It's never easy. Never. I left Freak's comment up here because initially I didn't really want to go into this, and I didn't want to spoil Scarp because I heard Casey might have some comments on Jim Rooney.
He might have gotten a letter this week.
The only thing I'm going to say to this is that Jim is not part of the functional organization. He's obviously a Rooney, no doubt about it. Brother of Art, and he has written a book, and it's very much about their father, Dan, and just the operations that he went through, and being the head of the team and everything once the chief handed over the reins, and he's doing some promotional stuff to sell that book, and obviously he's going to be asked about the team, and he was on the Ross Tucker podcast. And by the way, I really like Ross Tucker. I'm sure he's probably going to listen to this later. I think he does a great job. But he had some comments, and let's just say embracing mediocrity is the best way I can summarize what he said. And it was really disturbing in that sense. But I don't want to steal too much of Casey Kasem's thunder at the end of this program. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Yes, Ian's space is now down to the glove box.
Well, I'm beyond that. We've got the big, Ford Transit church van now.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, you can see you guys coming a mile away.
You can indeed. So, I just to branch on what you said about embracing mediocrity. I think I said this on Twitter, and Joe, who's in the chat, brought this up, brought it back today. And I feel like for a long time, probably up until, maybe 2019, 2020, somewhere in there, give or take, like the fan base had a pretty good finger on the pulse of like what the team needed to do. And it seemed like the fan base was mostly in line with, what the team needs were. And the team kind of understood that too. Like you could, with relatively, decent success, predict at least the position they were going to take in the first round of the draft for probably a decade, right?
Yeah.
The fans knew, the team knew, it wasn't really a secret, what their needs were, things like that. But I feel like this offseason, if you made a Venn diagram of like what they should do and what they will do, those circles are the farthest apart they've ever been. Yeah. Before they were almost overlapping, but now they're so far apart because they don't want to rock the boat, or they're gonna. And I know this is probably jumping ahead on the agenda a little bit, but the fear that I had last week when we talked was that they were just going to run it back with the same crew. That what they should do versus what they need to do are drifting farther and farther apart, because either Art doesn't want to pay guys to not work for them, or whatever it is. But you hear Russell Wilson's comments about, oh yeah, I'd love to stay, and we talked about a contract maybe a little bit and thing. But even that, there's some context there, right? He didn't actually say like they're deep into negotiations. It could have just been like in exit interviews he said, hey, I'd like to come back, well, let's see what we can do and we'll talk. That could be the very beginning.
Definitely some context there.
Yeah, so I'm not reading too much into that, but I don't know, to see this team, a week and a half now removed from a playoff exit, and then Jim Rooney's comments. I know we haven't heard Art Rooney talk yet, but it makes me wonder if they being, the powers that be in the Steelers organization, actually watch any team other than the Steelers play football. Because I feel like if you watch the best teams in the league, you would realize how far behind them we are. And it sucks. I don't feel good saying this. It sucks, but we're lacking in a lot of areas right now. And if they just run it back with the same crew, it's going to be, it's it's going to be the same thing all over again. It's the definition of insanity.
We talked about Groundhog Day. We're also living through the definition of insanity, if in fact this is what occurs. And I do want to point out that when the Steelers have assistant coaches whose contracts expire, they don't make a big deal of it. They don't make an announcement or anything like that. They just go, and that's that. Unfortunately, for most of the fan base, they have to understand that does not apply to the big names. Doesn't apply to Terrell Austin or Arthur Smith, those that have expiring contracts, because they do not. They have contracts that are still around. And as was pointed out by Ian, Mr. Rooney does not like to pay people who don't work for him, or does not like to pay people to go away. And that's where we're at, and it sure feels like we are running it back with the exact same thing. So yes, are we really doing this again? It sure feels like it. There is time, okay? There is time, but you also have to remember, just real quick, Ryan, there are people whose livelihoods are on the fence here, because these are people that if they are going to be relieved, they need to go find other work. And the longer we hang on to them, the more of a disservice we do to them. And then secondly, the pool of available people to bring in also gets smaller. And again, Groundhog's Day all over the place. Scarps, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, there's, I think Liam Cohen just accepted the Jaguars job.
He did tonight.
He said he's expected to be the Jaguars' next head coach.
Okay, so we were right. It was the GM all along.
So yeah, so there's a new coach. Got Aaron Glenn in New York. Dan Campbell is going to have a lot of openings. The Saints are still looking for their head coach. The Raiders are still looking for their head coach. And there's shuffling across other teams as well. So, if the Steelers haven't made a move already, or haven't shuffled their coaches or whatever, that is such a dick move. Like that is just like ridiculous. Like what right now could you be waiting for to make a decision to let someone go? Like, these sort of things happen within a couple days of the season ending, and other teams fire coaches during the season, or
right.
I mean, hell, look at last year with Buffalo. They fired Ken Dorsey. They brought in is it Joe Brady?
Brady.
Yeah.
Yep.
They fire Dorsey, bring in Brady. Dorsey goes to Cleveland, and he's no longer there. So that dude's been fired a couple times. But the point is, other teams who just so happen to be real contenders in the same conference you're in are not afraid to make a switch when shit isn't working. And we're just like, no, it'll work the way it's going to work. We're going to do it how we want, and it's going to work no matter what. And I just, that goes back to that whole just refusal to adapt. And let's be real. Mike Tomlin runs the defense. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, it sounds like he runs a little bit of the offense too. Mike Tomlin. And so for every national talking head that gets up there and says, oh, it's not Mike Tomlin's fault, Mike Tomlin is more involved than he ever has been.
I think so too.
And when I was there, he was not as involved because he had a coordinator, whether it was Bruce Arians or Todd Haley. They had Dick LeBeau, only Keith Butler for a couple years when I was there, but then Kevin Colbert. Like, they had a proven general manager that was head of football operations at the Lions before he came here.
Correct.
Like, now you have Art, and I'm going to go on this roll right now, but now you have Art. You have Art, was born into it, but officially since 2003. Omar, who's been there since 2001, and Mike since 2007. So for almost 20 years now, the same three people have just been talking in a room, and it's an echo chamber. And yes, they brought in Andy Weidel. How much pull does Andy Weidel really have? Maybe he selects the players or whatever, but at the end of the day, Mike is going to have the final say, or Mike, Omar, and Art. But I'm telling you, Omar, and that was one of the main reasons why I didn't want Omar to become the GM, because he's not a football guy. He was their football administration coordinator. Then he was the VP of football operation or football administration. He's not a football guy. He's not Kevin. Kevin already had that experience.
Right.
And Omar is, for better or worse, he's a yes man.
He's a numbers guy. He's not a football guy.
And he's a yes man. So he is repeating whatever they want to say. And, of course everybody has to be a yes man. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
But Kevin was able to back that up with tangible evidence because he was a football guy when Omar isn't, and Omar's learning on the job. So that's great that Andy Weidel's there. That's great that Sheldon White's there, but they don't have enough fresh ideas in that place. There's no new blood. I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
Why? Because you just saw Ben pop up?
Well, that too. We got some characters in the chat tonight.
We do, man. I gotta admit, Eagles guy is great. He not only did he get banned.
Eagles guy?
Oh yeah. Eagles guy in the chat. He's been going at us for a few minutes. He got banned. Now he's back as Kenny.
It's actually Kenny Pickett because he has nothing else to do.
Or it's his aunt.
Because the Eagles will trot out Jalen Hurts with no legs rather than start Kenny Pickett.
That's true.
I believe.
No, you're right.
True.
I believe that they would probably start Tanner McKee over Kenny Pickett. I'm not even kidding you.
I'm not gonna disagree with that. Ben, we've just been
Kenny Pickett quarterback
discussing
I love
a little
it,
bit.
Dude, trying to get banned again.
Yeah, he's getting there. We raised a glass to Myron Cope. It is his birthday. We also let Scarps have his little say, although clearly it was lacking the intensity and emotion that he would have had last week had the power not been out. And we've just kind of been talking in general. Is this team really running it back and stuff? And it certainly looks like that's what's going to happen. Yes, there are things that still can happen.
We don't know that.
No, we don't
know any of that.
We don't.
I mean, look, people need to take all of this shit, even especially the stuff that Russ is saying, with a grain of salt. Okay, because one, Russ saying we're talking could mean that his agent sent the Steelers an offer and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And the Steelers may or may not have responded. Russ is also a master at manipulating the media. He could have said what he needed to say to generate interest so other teams would call him.
Absolutely.
In the event that, he's still under contract until the first day of the NFL.
March something.
First week of March. But, he may want it to be out there that the Steelers and he have been talking all along. And if some team needs a quarterback, maybe they'll call him. He's hoping. I don't know. I'm just saying it doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm not going to buy into it until there's a little more substance from the team or until somebody I talk to in the building tells me, yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And he's a master manipulator. The guy is a right individual. He knows how to play the game. He's been around a long time. So I agree with what you're saying in regards to him.
So, I am a little bit concerned isn't the right word. I'm confused because there are a number of coaches whose contracts are expiring, and you would think that they would want to have the decency of, if these guys weren't going to be back,
time out if I might here. I was going to say, you look like Isaac on the Love Boat, making a drink and talking at the same time. I'm quite impressed. What was that, an old fashioned?
Yeah. Oh, nice. I was a bartender, dude, for years in a life, but still.
Now we know.
So where the fuck was I?
Sitting down on a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sentence, the middle of that. Before somebody said, "What are you doing?"
Well, I was curious.
You said you were
whatever.
confused why they hadn't moved on from guys or made a decision on the expiring contract.
These coaches, the staffs are being put together right now.
Right.
It's kind of inconsiderate not to let these guys know whether or not they're going to be back. I mean, the word out on the street is that, for example, Dunbar, the defensive line coach, is going to be a free agent. No word. Maybe the Steelers are talking to him. Maybe they're not. I don't know. He is one of the guys I would look to upgrade because I thought the defensive line played not that great the last 6 weeks of the season. Both lines. I would certainly throw him in the same category. Not as bad as Pat Meyer.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Fucking go.
Yeah,
but he's a guy I would consider trying to upgrade.
Let me ask you guys about Pat Meyer. There's been a lot of talk that the line didn't improve, blah blah blah. But I've seen some people suggest, well, wait a minute. Mason McCormick played pretty well. We know Zach Frazier played pretty well, but Broderick Jones maybe didn't. I mean, how do you?
Am I logged into the fucking chat as this guy? What the hell?
This guy.
Hey man,
if
he's that, if this account is that interested, we've already won.
We have. I am thoroughly impressed at this person's doggedness. But yeah, wow.
He's got more dog in him than Kenny Pickett does.
Exactly.
Trade me.
The beauty of being on the show is we can talk and all they can do is say things in the chat.
I know.
Sorry to everyone else in the chat. We love you all. But
we
love you more, actually.
Yes.
Right.
I can't wait to see
more.
the next name he comes up with. Roman Gabriel's ghost.
He comes up.
Roman Gabriel?
Yeah, Roman Gabriel. He's obviously an Eagles fan. Roman Gabriel's ghost.
So he's got to create a new fucking email every time maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, it's all
whatever.
There are 4 teams left in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Ian, my question to you is this. What do those teams do that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't do?
Play offense competently? Sorry, Ian.
Well, no. So actually there was a stat out there this week. I think it was Matt Williamson that put it out that these 4 teams are the 4 highest teams in converting 4th downs. Now, that's not saying attempting 4th downs. We all know that Washington, I almost said their old team name, Washington goes for it on 4th down more than any other team. And that was a thing that Detroit did.
And they
for a while
convert.
too. And they convert
more.
right. They convert
like
it at
80%.
one of the highest rates. Right. And so for a team like that Cliff Kingsbury is a pretty good offensive mind and can design plays to work in certain situations. So I think the thing they do the best is they have plays and can execute them in a have to have it situation. If you put them in a certain down and distance and it's you have to have this to win the game, stay in the game, whatever it is, these teams are able to execute and convert. And sometimes it's not just one play. The Eagles rattled off an 11-minute drive against us to win the game against us. They are capable of executing at a high level in need to have it situations.
Kenny Pickett QB1.
Look at this guy.
So I'd say that is the biggest thing.
Oh shit.
I will branch off of that by saying I do, you could make arguments, and we've made them on the show, that Mike Tomlin's living in his fears by not going forward on 4th down in certain situations more often. But when you're as bad as we are at converting 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, or just converting any down and distance, that doesn't give you a lot of confidence to say, oh, if I go for it on this fourth down, we have a good chance of converting it. We're converting fourth downs at like a 33% clip, if that. So, that's a big difference from Washington converting 70 to 80% and Dan Quinn being like, yeah, we'll go for it 4 times on fourth down in the red zone. And if we convert 2 of them, that's 14 points instead of 12 points we get from kicking field goals. But they convert at a high rate. So you have to have the guys and the scheme and the execution to be able to do it, to feel confident about going for it that often. It's like when, we had AB and Le'Veon Bell and all that and would go for 2 aggressively. It's like, well, we had the guys to do it, so okay, you feel a little better about it, rather than now it's like, oh, I don't trust our guys to execute.
You like the fourth down aggressiveness plus the execution.
I think the biggest thing I think is the ability to execute and have to have it situations.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is the level of skill players on those last 4 teams that are good at converting fourth downs, because their skill players are solid fucking players. Jaden Daniels, you got to be careful when you're rushing him. You might get a sack, but then again, you might give him enough room. And if you do, he's gone. He'll just carry the ball himself.
Yeah.
So those
Lions found that out.
Yeah. Those teams are good at converting in those situations because they have the athletes. The Steelers don't have athletes, man. I'm sorry. This roster's trash. I've been saying it for 3 years. It's trash. And it's going to take at least another draft, because we don't have a quarterback. It's going to take 2 at least to correct it. I mean, yeah, there are an awful lot of people that want to bring back Fields, and I get that. He probably is the best option given the situation. But think back to the way Fields was playing in week 5 and week 6. He throws the ball as hard as he fucking can, even if it's a 7-yard out. The dude never throws the whole touch, and he misses open receivers and throws into double coverage. The guy makes bad decisions with the ball.
We'll come back to the quarterbacks, Ben,
right.
because I do want to talk about it a little bit.
I'm just talking about skill positions in general.
Yeah. So for you, it's just talent, skill positions, Scarps. What those 4 teams? What do they do? What do they have that Pittsburgh is lacking?
I agree with I can't talk. I agree with what Ben and Ian said. Just trying to think of another thing that they're better at than us. I guess I would just say that. I would just say that
working as an in unison offensive line.
They have better. They have better coaching. They execute better, and the one thing that I noticed over watching last week's game is that their coordinators or coaches, whoever's involved, they put their players in positions to succeed, but also they're not predictable. Like, so the Chiefs, even though Isaiah Pacheco is their RB1, he's really not. I mean, he's okay.
He's just a guy.
He's just a guy. Kareem Hunt, and then Samaje Perine. Look at the Commanders. Austin Eckler. Everybody said he's washed, and that dude's making plays still. Zach Ertz is an older guy still making plays. Here's one: Buffalo Bills defense. They got a couple decent guys. Okay, Gregory Russo's good. Matt Milano's is
love that dude.
Give me 22 of those guys. You know what I mean? Like, just the motor. But like, you can't tell me that the Buffalo Bills defense has more talent than the Steelers. And honestly, Sean McDermott called a really good game, and that's Mike Tomlin's William and Mary teammate. But I just here's the easiest way I can describe it. Out of these final 4 teams, they're not putting Cordarrelle Patterson in the game and running a fucking toss sweep to him.
Yep.
They're not doing that.
Yeah.
And maybe they do run a toss sweep, but they're running it to a guy that can get to the outside and is fast.
And it isn't just the guy, man. We've never blocked that play well one time, maybe once or twice all year.
So is that Pat Meyer?
I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem to me like that offensive line unit is playing well as a unit. They don't know what the other guys are doing. They don't communicate well. You see McCormick fire off, and he takes Jones's guy out, and Jones is standing there going, "What the fuck?
Right.
What am I supposed to do here,
dude?
That was my guy. I was supposed to block him."
No.
And it's not like McCormick can't block. He just isn't blocking the right guy.
There was
shit like that.
There was a play in the Baltimore game where Ronnie Stanley came out. You know what? It might not even been against us. It might have been the Ravens and somebody else late in the season. There was a play. It was like a little toss out to the left or a screen out to the left, and Ronnie Stanley came out and downfield and destroyed a cornerback. I mean, destroyed this guy. I haven't seen that from a Pittsburgh Steelers tackle in years. I see a Pittsburgh Steelers tackle come out. They get sloppy footed. They don't know quite what to do. The cornerback makes a couple moves. They get around them. I mean, it's got to be a coaching issue because these guys they're aggressive football players.
Sometimes it's a want to issue though, too, Mark.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You mean the greatest motivator of all time can't motivate his guys?
I'm just saying. Did you see a lot of want to in that game? That playoff
in that last game, I saw very little want to.
I saw even that Bengals game, the last game of the regular season, and I was talking to you guys about it during the game. I just didn't see a whole lot of, hey, we want to win this motherfucking game. I thought the Bengals were desperate to win the game, and that's great.
Sure,
they should be because their playoff lives were on the line. But the Steelers weren't matching that level of intensity, and I thought the defense played pretty well that day. The offense didn't play worth a shit.
This team quit after the first quarter in Philadelphia.
And Ryan, I talked about that a little bit last week. I felt like they put so much emotionally into winning the division in Baltimore that when they lost that game, they just kind of mentally tanked the rest of the year. Not saying purposefully tanked, but I think after losing that game in Baltimore, after losing in Philadelphia, they just had.
They weren't the same.
They weren't the same.
No.
And no. Let me. I know I talk, but I'm going to keep talking. Let's get back to get back to the coaching thing. And I want to make a couple points. Is it Zach Azzani, the wide receivers coach?
Yes.
So he was brought in, and we were told that this guy. You know, he's not gonna put up with your shit. Yeah, I see that. He's not gonna put up. He's not gonna put up with taking plays off or not blocking or all this stuff. And I feel that George Pickens only regressed, right? And maybe Calvin Austin, improved or whatever, but I wasn't impressed by our new wide receiver coach. I wasn't impressed by our new quarterback coach. I
think that I understand Mike's position that, coaches that say some players are uncoachable, like he laughs at that because those guys are afraid of trying to coach that guy past his limitations. But some guys are fucking uncoachable. Okay. Some guys just have a fucking attitude. They just have, they just have an entitlement that they should just be able to go out there and do whatever the fuck they want because they're so goddamn good. And George Pickens is one of those guys. Sorry. Every single one of us that played team sports played with some fucking asshole who was like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Some guys just aren't fucking coachable. And yeah, I get it. Tomlin wants to reach those guys. I'm pixelated. I don't know why.
A little bit. You're fine.
You're a little blurry.
Oh, it's fine.
Continue. Yeah. Some guys just aren't fucking coachable, man. And I don't know why. I can't speak to what will make George Pickens, see the light. I think a lot like Scarpino that if this dude gets paid, he's going to get way worse. Way worse.
Yeah, and maybe we don't have to talk about this now, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. We're coaching tree is always a topic. And
yep.
I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I do want to make a point that Mike Tomlin has only ever hired one coach that became a coordinator for another team, and that was Harold Goodwin. Harold Goodwin was the assistant offensive line coach for the Bears from 2004 to 2006.
Yep.
Mike hired him in 2007, and he was an offensive assistant.
Yep.
He left when Bruce Arians left to be with the Colts to become their O-line coach, and then he became a Arizona Cardinals coordinator in 2013. Now, there are three other people that Mike there's Amos Jones was a special teams coach.
Yes.
Who Tomlin hired, and he became the Steelers special teams coordinator for 1 year before Danny Smith took over. But then there's Keith Butler, who was a Cower hire, and Tomlin retained him. And then there was, of course, Randy Fiechner, who was a Tomlin hire, promoted to the Steelers coordinator, and then he hired Matt Canada, who would never. Anyway,
yeah.
So,
hey Ryan, quick question for you:
Yes.
What do all of these coordinator hires have in common?
Take it away. I set you up. Do it.
You did. They all come from the Marty Schottenheimer coaching tree.
The worst playoff coach of all time. Wonderful.
Yes, and as does. Well, I mean, Cower was a Schottenheimer guy.
Yes,
Dungy was, who Tomlin is under the Dungy tree, and so, but obviously the guys Cower hired, LeBeau, Wisenhunt, Malarkey. We have not hired someone outside, and even our current two guys, Terrell Austin and Arthur Smith, were both from the Schottenheimer coaching tree. We've not hired someone from outside the Schottenheimer coaching tree for a long ass time.
It's crazy. It really is.
That is the problem with coaching in general. Is that guys tend to hire coaches that they have familiarity with because they worked with them someplace else before, instead of looking for the best coach available. The only time that Tomlin's done that is when he hired Haley. And it was heavily suggested to him that he hire Haley. He was nudged in that direction. We really think you got to take a longer look at this guy, and because we think he'll work here. But that was after they refused to give Bruce Arians a contract. I mean, I think it's funny, the HBO special they did on Bruce Arians, where basically Arians and his wife blamed it on Mike Tomlin and said, Tomlin fired him. And Tomlin didn't fire him. Art fired him. Art wasn't giving him a new contract. He was done.
It was a silent firing.
Silent firing.
Let's be honest, too. It was about Ben Roethlisberger.
It was 100%.
Yeah. They number one, there was the idea they'd gotten too close. And number two, it was the idea that Arians was going to get him killed. And Todd Haley, for all the things people want to talk about on field, off field, whatever, he saved Ben Roethlisberger's career as far as I'm concerned.
He added 5 years to it. And I know people who say, well, that's fine. His last 5 years, he was trash anyway. Well, he would have been trash sooner if Arians had stuck around.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because Arians was getting him hit at a record fucking rate. And Arians, that is the hallmark of his offense. He gets quarterbacks killed.
Yep.
He shortened Andrew Luck's career. Carson Palmer, he ended his career. Tom Brady had him fired because he was tired of getting hit. This is Bruce Arians. Yes, he's a great motivator of men, but his offense sucks.
The wide receiver thing, real quick. I've seen a lot of stuff this week. Jerry Dulac had his, what to do with the team, and Mark Cabali did, and I'm really fascinated with the differences in opinion of what to do with George Pickens. And one of the things that I'm curious about is, those that say, well, you can't trade him because you've already got a wide receiver room that's got no talent, and you really have no talent. And then there's the other side of that, which says, no, you got to trade him now to get something for him because you don't really want him back anyway. You're not going to give him a second contract. I'm fascinated by this because I think the Steelers, if you look back at their history, we've had some pretty decent teams that had, I would say, average wide receiver rooms.
Yeah, that's true. But we had really good quarterbacks.
Well, no, it's true.
Right. Roethlisberger made really Cedric Wilson. I mean, come on. He made that guy look really good. He wasn't good. Like, who was the kid from Oregon State? Marcus
Wheaton.
Marcus Wheaton.
He got Marcus Wheaton paid in Chicago.
No, he absolutely did. And just, I guess what I'm getting at is, I think for all the people that are afraid that if Pickens leaves, the wide receiver room is just all of a sudden going to be a bunch of nobodies.
Well,
sometimes that's okay.
Yeah,
I will take some hardworking nobodies who run their routes, who block. I will take them.
I agree. In principle, but I see them adding at least one, maybe two people in free agency or trading, and
they have to
drafting another one.
Yeah, you got to add 3 wide receivers this year.
They absolutely have to.
Guys, don't worry. It's just as simple as adding T. Higgins.
Sure.
Yeah. T. Higgins, Keenan Allen.
I want to make a.
Who I do think they're going to add though is Christian Kirk.
That's who's hurt.
I think that I think he gets cut.
And he's 5'11", so that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, AB was 5'10", dude. You know this.
He was the anomaly, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he definitely is not. AB is the exception and not the rule. I agree.
Yes.
Right.
AB, Emmanuel Sanders, they were all basically the same size. But I think, on the Pickens thing, we have such Stockholm syndrome of being prisoners to mediocrity that we're like, we can't possibly. It goes back to when we got rid of or didn't re-sign Le'Veon Bell or the whole Le'Veon Bell thing, the whole Antonio Brown thing when we trade him. You're like, we can't possibly trade those guys. They're all pro guys. And it's like, okay, yeah, we got rid of them and we've been mediocre ever since. Haven't replaced that talent level. But I mean, James Conner succeeded outside of Pittsburgh, and James Conner was good when he was healthy here. It's just one of those things where it's like we've become so conditioned to just accept things could be worse than what it is now. So this we just gotta ride this out and stick with it. And
it's
it's
concerning.
It is.
They should have kept James Conner. I'm sure they regret it.
And college offenses now are so much more advanced than they were 15 years ago that rookie wide receivers are coming. Rookie mid-round wide receivers like Troy Franklin in Denver this year are coming in and having a lot of success. And I only know that name because he was the next one taken after we took Roman Wilson. But you can find
and he
guys,
plays outside. And he plays outside.
Right.
He's what?
Right.
6'4" or something? Yeah.
Yes.
You can find guys. You don't have to get a first-round receiver to have a rookie have success. You can find guys throughout.
Well, what was McConkey? Where was he drafted?
Second round, top of the second round.
Second? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
He
mean,
was like 34th or 35th.
okay,
overall.
higher than I thought.
Yeah.
But he had a very good year. Better year than I thought he was going to have, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And one final thought on coaching too. Obviously, we just went through the divisional round, saw teams lose. The Lions, sorry, Mark, for all of your neighbors up there, went one and done.
Allow me to say, and I talked to a lot of Lions fans this week. They flat out admitted, not all of them, but there's a lot of them that flat out admitted they believed they were destined for the Super Bowl. They were entitled to the Super Bowl. And that was the big shock of losing.
When you say they, do you mean the fans?
Yes. And there are and some of those fans believe it filtered into some of those players too. Now, I like Dan Campbell a lot.
So do
I think he gets it. Former player, And I have a hard time believing that he allowed his team to underestimate Washington. That said, when the whole fan base, and I see it all around me all the time about, one pride, one goal, it's destiny, we're going to the Super Bowl and all this. And look, I'm not saying Steelers fans haven't been down that road before too. But when you've never done it before and you get this feeling of entitlement, and I think it was a kick in the balls for them. And now they've lost both coordinators. They're in for a significant change. And I mentioned this in our Slack channel. I feel horrible for the diehards that have been with the Lions through absolutely the worst of the worst. Those are the people I feel bad for. The ones that just started buying sweatshirts and shit, I don't feel bad for.
So where I was going with
yes,
that
sorry to interrupt you, Ian. I had to get that out.
No, that's a good segue. Where I was going with that was you watch Campbell's year-end press conference. He's emotional. He takes the blame. He says, "This was all on me." You could tell how much he cared, right?
He's a pretty emotional guy, though, dude.
He is. That's true.
He really, really is. I mean,
he wears his heart on his sleeve, but
he emotes a lot during games. You're like,
wow,
dude.
You see the
fire. Have a coronary.
But compare that to Mike Tomlin, right? Think back, if you will. Remember in 2008 when Deshae Townsend had the pick six against the Cowboys?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Tomlin's out there chest bumping guys on the field and how fired up he was.
Yeah.
He has not shown that much emotion in years. The most we get out of him now is like a fist pump or like a wink at the camera. And I'm not saying Mike Tomlin doesn't have it anymore or that the locker room, doesn't respect him or anything, but just like contrasting early Mike Tomlin with now Mike Tomlin, or now Mike Tomlin with Dan Campbell, it's a completely different level of emotion. I think as fans, we're looking at Dan Campbell and being like, why doesn't our coach care this much? And maybe he does care, just expresses it differently, but it's just, you don't get the sense listening to him.
I'll just say this, and then I'll shut up. But I think there's merit to it in the sense that of what we've talked about in the past couple of weeks. A guy can be in one place too long, and oftentimes that guy is the one who has the most problems identifying that.
My hope is this.
This
is the conversation that people were having about Cowher in 2002, 2003.
Right.
Okay. A guy can be in a place for too long and that message gets lost. The 1998 season, which those two are too young to remember.
I remember 98. What are you talking about? Yeah.
I was 11.
Yeah.
I remember believe me, I remember.
I was at the AFC Championship game when we lost to the Chargers. I remember this shit.
That wasn't 98, dude.
No, I know. That was 94.
That was 94.
I'm saying that was before 98 happened. I remember 98.
98 is the year that Cowher lost.
Ben forgot to take his Prevagen tonight, so just
apparently.
I know you guys were alive, but you can't really fucking remember it. Not really. I mean, you were fucking 11, and I don't know how old you were.
Shit, dude.
13?
I remember shit when I was 5 from the Steelers, so...
Do you really?
I'll be with the. Oh, absolutely.
Do you really remember the emotions?
Man,
Did you really understand it? You know what I'm saying?
My mother would. I guarantee she'd be able to confirm that story. I was a very unusual child.
Good for you.
Yeah,
you're an unusual adult too.
But. Yeah, exactly. 98 season, Cowher lost the team. And there are
that was the
parallels.
coin toss year in Detroit on
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. What do you mean I don't fucking remember that?
Yeah, you remember it, but not really, Ian. I'm sorry. Not the way we remember it as fucking adults. Okay? Sorry. You weren't one. And you should know the difference because you have 47 children at home.
Yes.
So the point being
thank you, Vinny.
You saw different reactions from Cowher on the sideline during that season toward the end of the year. And you had to hit this fucking look on his face like, I don't know what the fuck to do with these guys. I don't know how to reach them. And that was kind of the look I saw on Tomlin's face week 18 and in the wild card game where he stood there.
This is a good analogy.
You're like, dude, what is going on with you? Where the fuck is Mike Tomlin? Who is this guy? And what that led to at that time was Cowher to make some changes to the way that he coached. They were subtle, but he made them. Hopefully, Tomlin kind of learns his lesson and makes some changes himself, because what that led to.
Hold on. We got to talk. Vinny, holy shit, man. I remember taking a dump in my vent because I was staying up past my bedtime to watch WWE.
And I didn't want to get caught by my parents.
Hey, Vinny, was it at least a bra and panties match? Like was it at least worth it? Was it Sable? Was it Sable?
Oh.
Sable versus
Vinny
Lita.
just took this program to a whole new level. Holy cow, that's funny.
Anyway, my hope is that Cowher makes some fucking changes.
Holy fuck, man.
It
takes you 10 years to make a point.
Well, I keep getting fucking interrupted. You guys won't shut the fuck up.
Pot calling the kettle black here.
Holy shit.
Wah, wah.
We got to take this comment from Vinny. Hang on a second.
It was too good. I'm sorry. I had to
that
interrupt.
Shut up. My hope is that Tomlin makes changes like Cowher did, which eventually led to a championship. The end. Jesus Christ.
But that championship was how many years later? 8, 9.
It was a bunch.
7,
It was
8.
a bunch. You know what sealed it though? He got the quarterback.
Yeah.
He finally got the fucking quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they sucked the year before. They were terrible in 03.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make this. So the thing that one of the most frustrating things about Pickens is that the fans the fans just totally act like his behavior is okay, but then they act like he's so they act like we couldn't ever survive without him. And again, he makes some ridiculous catches, but he is not consistent enough. He quits. He pouts. He has 12 receiving touchdowns. Okay. Do you know where that ranks in Steelers history? Tied for 32nd.
Okay, I was gonna say mid-20s.
He's tied with Jericho Cottrey, Dwight Stone, and
Hands of Stone.
Yeah.
And here's one that blows my mind. There's a Steelers receiver who has one less touchdown than him. Fellow by the name of James Washington.
No shit.
He has one more touchdown than James Washington. And what do we think what do we think of James Washington?
James Washington did play 4 years in Pittsburgh.
He's a nice young man.
He played in 60 games. Pickens has played in 48 games. So okay. But my point is, we think of him as a scrub. Like we can't survive without 12 receiving touchdowns in 40 something games. Like, I don't get it. Anyway, so then getting back to my point is I look at these final 4 teams. The Eagles have an alpha wide receiver in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, who could probably be a wide receiver 1 on another team, but they run the ball.
Yeah.
The Commanders, Terry McLaurin's a wide receiver 1, and he'd be a wide receiver 1 on most other teams. He'd be, but they also have 2 decent running backs. They still like to try to run the ball. Yep. But if you look at the AFC,
they got a good quarterback who's mobile as fuck.
If you look at the AFC's final 2 teams, though, neither has a wide receiver 1. They have a bunch of guys. They have
really good quarterbacks.
They have several eligibles, whether that's tight ends, running backs, receivers. They know how to scheme. They know how to use personnel. They know how to keep you on your toes. Yes, they have great quarterbacks, but they do not have an A.J. Brown. Neither one of them does. The Bills, for Christ's sake, the Bills traded for Amari Cooper, and he doesn't even fucking play.
I mean, Matt Collins is getting as much time as he is.
Like Khalil Shakir.
Amari Cooper's a free agent.
Curtis, he's
Yeah.
100 years old. But the point, but
No, but he's still, in other words, he's right up our alley.
yeah, perfect. But anyway, so again, give me a bunch of Hines Wards
God, please.
who actually give a shit.
And that's what I was getting at.
And who
And
outplay their ability, man.
who outplay their ability.
Yeah.
And you know, Ian, you want to talk about emotion. And I used to laugh about this all the time, even though I'm an emotional guy too. When we lost to the Patriots in the 2004 AFC Championship, and fucking Hines Ward cried at his locker and said, had tears down his face. I wanted to win it for Jerome. Meanwhile, Hines Ward would knock your fucking teeth in. Like nobody has ever called that dude soft ever.
That's why he's my favorite Steeler of all time.
But find me one fucking guy in that locker room that would show some emotion like that, and I'd be like, okay, I can ride with this dude. Like this dude, because Cam Hayward ain't doing that shit.
Cam
TJ
looked
Watt
pretty
ain't
fucking devastated at the end of that game. Cam was the one guy. Cam was the one guy at the end of the wild card game where I was like, damn, dude, I feel bad for you because
I did too.
You went out there and you played your ass off, and it just doesn't feel like everybody else gave that same level of effort or give a shit. I mean, watching Minka and Dante Jackson try to make tackle, I was like,
no, dude,
are you guys kidding me?
And
what this is the playoffs. What the fuck is going on with you two?
And my just I love Cam. Like Cam is the epitome of a Steeler. I do want to say though that the later it gets in his career, the more he toes that company line. Like he always sort of mimics what Tomlin says, and I just sit there and think like, when again this goes back to when Mike came in here, he had a bunch of guys in that locker room that had already won something. Right, and he didn't need to he didn't need to micromanage. He didn't need to police
did micromanage them in 2007, and he said he
regretted it. that first thing. But now it's like Mike has been so hands off that like even guys like Cam Hayward who are leaders, I think they're just kind of like, I can only do so much.
Cam right now reminds me a little bit of Ryan Clark. The only difference is that Cam just had an all-pro season, whereas when Ryan was done. He was ready to move to ESPN.
For sure.
And
Ryan's good at his job now.
Ryan's fantastic.
I agree with what you're saying. And Ryan actually had a better personality than Cam has now, too. So there's that. But Cam, dude, I really don't think he's going to. But right now would be an ideal time for him to retire.
I predicted that he is. I think he's done.
You come off an all-pro season.
Yep.
You've got a lot of heat on you. Now would be an ideal time to walk away. 35 years old.
Yep. And let's be honest.
Hasn't won a Super Bowl, but,
this is not a Super Bowl team that he's coming back to.
No, man. And it's not going to be the next year, the year after.
No. And that's why I think that's where he's headed. And you know what? If he doesn't, that's his choice. I've always said that about NFL players. It doesn't matter what I say. It's their decision. It's not easy. We laugh at the Brett Favres of the world who just keep playing and playing and playing. But we also know it's not easy because it's the only thing you've done your whole stinking life. And it's
giving up something you love. I mean,
fuck.
A few months ago, I sold my car that I'd had for, I don't know, over a decade, and it was time. It was done, right? Mm-hmm. But as I did it, I look back, I was like, maybe I could just keep both of these cars. It was a fucking car.
Yeah.
Right. It's something you've done for a long period of time. And if we're talking about football, it's something some guy has done, he started in Pee Wee. And now this is his whole fucking life. Yep. And it goes from Pee Wee to middle school to college, high school rather than college. Then college, it really becomes your life. Then you can become a pro. You have a long pro career, and holy shit, you're talking about, a couple of decades of doing the same thing. And you walk away from that, you got to go, okay, what do I do now? Right? It isn't just a question of what are you going to do? It's I'm giving up this thing. I'm giving up my identity. So I get it. I relate to it. But I also understand that Father Time's undefeated.
True. Very, very true. Somebody mentioned that Russ is, I think Joe said this, hanging on too long. As far as the quarterbacks, take away your thoughts on anybody that's a potential quarterback for this team and just look at right now what is best for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. Ian, who would you say that person is?
Oh boy. All right. Can I ask a follow-up question before I answer? Okay.
Sure.
Is it best for the Steelers in 2025 to compete, aka for a Super Bowl playoff spot, division title, whatever you want to call it? Or is it best for the Steelers in 2025 for the long term?
The Pittsburgh Steelers are always about winning. So yes, this is about competing.
Well, if you want to, if you want to honestly compete this year, then the answer is probably, I mean, I don't
say it. Say it.
Okay, of the guys on the roster, it's Russell Wilson.
Okay,
but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a free agent that would be worse than Russell Wilson or better. You know what I mean? Like there could be, I mean, depending on what happens in free agency, right? I mean, Dallas is potentially looking at a new coach. I mean, Dak has a horrendous contract situation right now. If Dallas were to put Dak on the market, like,
they're
Dak
not going to do that.
No.
A $90 million cap hit if they trade him. They're not going to do it.
No, I know. Yes, correct. But I'm just saying that, of the guys on the roster right now, if you want to compete for something,
Trevor Lawrence,
Russell Wilson is the best option to be competitive in this year. But that's not the best long-term answer for us.
And you're not necessarily saying that. Well, no, I know what you're saying. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
Scarps, what is your best alternative right now as a quarterback?
Ask the question again.
Well, the question is just simply who is.
Ian danced around it. I want you to get right to the meat of the question.
Well, the meat of the question is quite simply, who do you believe is the best quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025? Ian asked the question, are we talking about the best quarterback to compete for a division title, or are we talking about the best quarterback so that this team has a chance maybe to not do so well and reset? I don't see the Steelers ever doing that. I think the Steelers always will compete, and so therefore I agree with them. I think that's, the way they would go in that scenario. However, there's other factors, especially money. Okay. Scarps, how would you go about this?
I want to address the comment about trading for Trevor Lawrence. Who's going to coach Trevor Lawrence when he gets here? Mike Tomlin.
I will.
Arthur Smith.
I will come in with my 1980s quarterback knowledge.
I mean, Doug Peterson is a pretty good offensive minded coach. I mean, Christ, he led Nick Foles. Like Nick Foles won a fucking Super Bowl. So would I like Trevor Lawrence? Yes.
Nick Foles is a smart guy. He just isn't very talented.
Only if Trevor Lawrence, if we had a good coach.
Well, I want
or an
to answer
offensive-minded coordinator. Sorry,
Scarps, answer my question. I'm going to give it to Ben, but then I will come back to this trade thing.
So again, could you give me the parameters? So it's what the Steelers are always going to compete. So who do
right? So therefore, who do you think is the guy that they bring back?
If
I think it's 3 times now we've asked you for clarity.
That's what I do.
Fuck. It's probably Russ. Because you would have to build the offense around Justin Fields, and they're not going to do that. They're going to. It would be Russ. And I hate to say that because I'm a huge Russ fan, but I cannot take his corny shit anymore.
You
even
took
him
it
on
all season and you were fine with it
until he literally sucked. Like he's washed. He's done. Like his adjusted net yards per pass attempt went from like 6.8 to like 5.3. It went from Russ to Kenny Pickett like that. Okay,
It was mentioned earlier in the chat too, related to Russ, and we've talked about this. You know, we lost to the Bengals, and he's going off the field telling Cam Hayward, "Hey, let's go win the wild card." There is something cheesy about his positivity, and it does rub people the wrong way. Now,
it's just like anything else. It's time and fucking place.
Right? Exactly. That was not the time, and it wasn't the place.
No.
And he's So Ben, there's a question to you. The Steelers always want to compete. So who is it?
Lean into the mic, Mark, so we can hear you.
I'm sorry. The Steelers always want to compete. So who is it that you're bringing back, or that you're bringing in?
There are no good options. None. The best option is to fucking bring in somebody else and try something different. I think what they're probably going to end up doing is bringing in Fields next season. That's me. I could be wrong. That's my guess.
Okay.
Fields sucks. Russ is also not the answer. He sucks. He's done. He's not going to get better. In fact, he's going to get worse.
Okay.
So if it's me next year, I wait, and I see what's actually available for trade. Like if we're trying to compete, I look and see what's available in trade or in free agency. My sense is that the Vikings are not going to let Darnold leave. They're going to try and sign him to a long-term deal. And so they're going to try and trade McCarthy. Could be wrong. You know, he's on a cheap contract. They could just keep McCarthy as a backup.
Yep.
But
do it the Jordan Love way.
Yep.
But I think they're going to, they may make him available. If McCarthy was available, would I trade for him? It depends on how much it would cost. And it would probably be too expensive. So no. The fucking midget from Arizona is going to be available.
Call of Duty Murray
is going to be available in trade. I wouldn't trade for him. Sorry, wouldn't do it. He also has the issue where he can't see over the line.
Peter
has
Dinklage
to make, exactly, and has to make 15-step drops so that he can see down the field. Wouldn't fucking do it. This is a really, really, really fucking bad year if you need a quarterback. It's a really bad year. Now, we've talked about it.
A really bad year to need a quarterback was the year we drafted Kenny Pickett. So we just picked the perfect years to be in shit quarterback situations.
Well, I mean, honestly, we compounded it, though, by drafting Kenny. Is the guy who loved Kenny Pickett still in the chat? I wish he still was. We compounded the issue.
I got him out of here.
We compounded the issue by drafting Kenny because he sucks. And we burned a first-round pick on a guy who fucking sucks. So, using a first-rounder on anyone other than Cam Ward this year, who we're not going to get, he's going to be gone.
He's going number one.
I think he's going second. I think that Travis Hunter will go first. That's me.
Tennessee's quarterback situation.
Plenty of time for draft talk.
We'll get to that later.
CMAC brought up this Trevor Lawrence trade, and I'm not saying it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. Okay,
fuck no.
But the Steelers
unless they want to trade Trevor
listen,
Lawrence for a conditional fifth.
Listen. Listen. The Steelers have to know it's a quarterback-driven league.
Of course they know.
They've seen what happens. They don't want to relive the 1980s. Is it possible that they make a trade, not necessarily for Trevor Lawrence, but make a trade for a quarterback?
Who's going to be available? Other than a fucking midget from Arizona and potentially J.J. McCarthy, who knows how he's going to play? No idea.
Here's one for you. Who did Mike Tomlin love the same year that Kenny Pickett came out?
Malik Willis.
And he's played fairly well in some reserve spots in Green Bay.
That's fair.
Okay.
And
is he a free agent?
Yeah.
Is he a free agent?
Might have 1 year left.
I think he's got 1 year. But he's a guy I can see Tomlin going, ooh, he's played better.
But if you're Green Bay,
all right,
why would you trade him?
Oh, he's
on a cheap contract.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, I'm taking spaghetti. I'm throwing it at a wall because I think they need Ian. Go ahead. I'll shut up.
Two points to make on this. One is we all said on this show Malik Willis probably needed 2 years to figure out how to run an NFL offense. Malik Willis was not good his rookie year. If we had drafted Malik Willis and put him in the lineup, it would not have been a good situation.
No.
But after 2 years, in his third year, he looked like a competent quarterback. So I think we actually kind of got that analysis right, that we all unanimously said he needs a couple years to figure it out.
We aren't the smartest people on this planet, but we do know some football.
Yeah,
we do
a little bit.
Foosball is the devil.
And Ben is right. I think Malik has 1 year left on his rookie deal.
Yep.
That said, sometimes you can work things out where you say, hey, we're gonna, bring you in, give you a chance to be a starter, whatnot. Things can happen, right? So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to take a run at a guy like that. I'd be okay with that. The thing I don't want to see us do, regardless of if it's Fields, if it's Wilson, if it's somebody, if it's Drew Lock or whoever, I don't want to see us hamstring our salary cap for the long term. We have cap space this year. We can create more. We can probably
agree.
Get to around 60 million or so in cap space this year. But the 2026 quarterback class, which that draft is in Pittsburgh, by the way, looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. So there's that. There's some, pending free agents coming that year. I would say, to me, I think the best case scenario is you find someone to make do for 2025, and then you be aggressive in 2026 to get someone, whether it's in trade, whether it's in the draft, whatever it is. This is not the year to be aggressive in going after a quarterback.
Hey, I have to interject real quickly because
that's my point. I'm done. Go ahead.
Steelers Freak suggested that maybe we talk about Colin Kaepernick. I think he's like 38 years old now, but yeah, for sure. I agree.
I'm gonna guess Freak was
probably
being head facetious.
Let's bring him in and give him a tryout.
Well, Robert brings up Cousins, and to me, Cousins. Look, I think he did a great job on the set this week. He's going to get TV offers now. I definitely think he's very statuesque. The Achilles injury affected him.
He can't pull up. He can't push off on his right foot anymore.
No, it's just you can see it with him. It's
and the dude never had a big arm to begin with.
No,
he's done. That dude needs to write a book about how to make a lot of money and never really be that good.
Let me tell you, man, he's got a freaking mansion up here on Lake Michigan. The dude has done all
he's
right.
Like a good dude, like though. That's
he's a very good dude.
Like he just seems like a good dude. I don't really know about me.
Is that C-Mac? I don't think that's how you spell ayahuasca.
Close enough. We know what ayahuasca means.
Works.
That's
a great suggestion.
That's the Samoan spelling of ayahuasca.
That was fantastic.
I don't know.
Love it.
I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, but I have heard they're going to trade for Brandon Ayuk. So,
Well, look,
not.
The mistake they made was not going after Juwan Jennings, because that's the 49ers receiver they should have gone after, because that dude is
Right?
good. And they're not going to, when Ayuk is healthy, they're going to have Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall, who they just spent a first-round pick on. So they should have gone after Juwan Jennings. But off my soapbox. Go ahead.
A lot of time to cover it. It's all preliminary right now, but next week we'll have the conference title games, and hopefully we will hear from Mr. Rooney. He was, I think, January 29th through 30th last year, so we're getting closer to that. Not that what he says is necessarily gospel, but it would be nice to hear from the boss. With that said, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Casey Kasem, who I believe has some thoughts on the Steelers 2024 season.
Casey's Coast to Coast, American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was January 22nd, 1988. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is back with us again this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, just when I thought I couldn't be more patronized than I already am for not accepting mediocrity, or being told to be careful what I wish for, or who else are we going to get, or he'd get another job in 5 minutes, Jim Rooney decided to fire up the Rudy Gaslighting Tour. Not to be confused with the Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles. Casey, let's not kid ourselves. We all know Magical Mystery Tour is better than Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Ooh.
Let's get back on track. Jim Rooney joined the Russ Tucker podcast this week to discuss the Steelers' current state. While he said the recent failures were an organizational issue, he also blamed everyone but the Steelers in the same breath. Casey, I haven't seen the propaganda machine work this hard since Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. What's that, Casey? Who's Jim Rooney? Well, Casey, he's the brother of Steelers president Art Rooney II, son of the late Dan Rooney, and grandson of the Chief. He's also a Mike Tomlin apologist, a certified Bitcoin professional, and thinks Josh Allen won with Rex Ryan's players. I'm just kidding about those final things, Casey. Jim is a class act. He's a great person. However, I don't think he did himself any favors. While on the show, he said, and I quote, I don't want to get into excuse making, but the reality is we outperform the NFL mean at a greater rate than just about any team for the last 25 years. Casey, I'm not sure if you know this, but the mean is the average number found by adding all data points and dividing by the number of data points. So Jim is basically saying, well, we've been better than average for 25 years. And there is credence to that. However, doesn't that sound a lot like non-losing seasons with nothing to show for it?
Oh,
yeah. By the way, Casey, did you know that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season? Jim then brought the Ravens into the conversation, saying they're the only other team to outperform the mean like the Steelers. Casey, I don't know when comparing ourselves to the mean became the measuring stick. I guarantee you the Ravens weren't thinking about outperforming the mean when they put a purple boot in our ass a few weeks ago.
Yeah. That was fucking humiliating.
Yeah.
To be fair, Jim acknowledged the playoff losses and wanting to win more Super Bowls, only to make another excuse about losing to Manning, Brady, and Mahomes, as if we didn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback at the helm. He also neglected to mention losing to David Garrard, Tim Tebow, and Blake Bortles, and he never mentioned beating A.J. McCarron, Matt Moore, and Alex Smith. He then tripled down about outperforming the mean again. Casey, I'm done being patronized. What have I done to deserve this? Well, Ryan, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. and keep your radio tuned right where it is. Up 6 spots to number 18 this week. Here's the Pet Shop Boys and Dusty Springfield with What Have I Done to Deserve This?
Wow. That
Wow.
was out of left field. I did not see that. I thought maybe we were going to get some white snake or something.
I actually
For
heard
real?
it on the radio the other day on
Wow.
Top 40, and I wrote it down.
Outstanding.
Real quickly,
yes,
I,
Ben.
I just want to retort with this. Jim Rooney does not work for the Steelers.
He does not.
He does not have a position within the organization.
Nope.
He does not speak for the Steelers. When he goes on podcasts and says, we all need to do better, maybe he's talking about himself as a fan. I don't know. But what he says has no fucking relevance in the real world. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and Jim, really good dude. Always super respectful.
right.
Never like the Rooneys never acted like the Rooneys don't act like they're better than anybody. And Jim has never done that. It just he didn't do himself. He didn't do himself any favors.
I don't think he did
Maybe he
anybody
needs a
any favors.
PR guy, Ryan. Maybe you should call him. I mean, maybe this whole thing
Here's
is
a
your
guy
fault.
here's a guy that doesn't work pro bono.
Maybe you should have called him and said, "Hey, Jim, maybe I should help
He's
you
got
with
my-
this because you really suck at what you're doing right now."
I actually texted him and he texted me back, lose my number.
Did he really? You're lying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're lying. You're lying.
That's what Aaron Rodgers did.
know
to
what?
That's
Shaq.
a great.
I'm-
That's a funny line.
I'm intoxicated. I believed you for a second. I'm
Lose
not
my
gonna lie.
number.
I did.
Nice, Schefter.
That was fucking funny.
Oh shit! Hey, thanks again. We know it's the off season, but we're thrilled to have so many of you joining us.
That's
even
only
some
something
knuckle-
Antonio Brown would
even
do to
some
you.
knucklehead from Philadelphia was here tonight.
Yeah, we had some new people in the chat tonight too. So shout out to everyone who joined us. Hope you had fun and enjoyed the show.
Yeah,
you know.
it's we enjoy it, and we bring you the very, very best in our knowledge and opinions and all that stuff. So hopefully you do enjoy
Joe
it.
here for the whole fucking show.
he
Holy shit,
was.
Joe.
And Aaron, I would love to introduce the new SCB Inside Blitz if I get that graphic one of these years. But apparently somebody's still hung over from the Ohio State victory on Monday night. But I'll leave it at that. In any case, thanks so much. Check out the website, steelcityblitz.com. Check us out on all of our socials. And we will see you again next week. And don't forget, kids, go Steelers.
Ravens suck. I mean, not really, but yeah, they suck.
Go Bills, I guess.
They're in Cancun just like the rest of us.
Fucking fuck.